Hello, friends. You can't see me. Get it? Because it's a Glimmer Cape video. I'm missing, just like the audio from my first recording. Ha ha ha. But really, the gimmick is just because my camera would have blocked the cape, so I was too lazy to change the size of my camera. A little bit of behind the scenes magic there for you guys. Let's get into our video about Glimmer Cape. So this is another itemization video. We're going to talk about why we buy Glimmer Cape, why we may not buy Glimmer Cape. It's a little easier than 4-staff, to be honest. So it'll be much shorter than that 4-staff video. Let's look at the stats. You have 20 attack speed. Don't care about it. Where supports, it really doesn't matter. You know, some supports do kind of benefit from attack speed, and sometimes it's helpful against heroes like Undying, Phoenix, Nimbus, Coddle, like the people where you have to like just auto attack and it doesn't matter that you don't do damage. You're just trying to like break something. But it's never really the reason we buy this item, so just forget it. 15% attack, 15% magic resistance though. This is quite significant. So in the 4-staff video, if you watch that one, you know, we said, you know, these stats are pretty nice for supports to increase your mana pool, you know, some small health regen, but it wasn't really why we ever bought the item, and it was kind of this like, you know, if we're choosing between the two, maybe we'll consider it. But for Glimmer Cape, 50 magic resistance is like, that's actually quite helpful for survivability. And you know, your alternatives are what? Pipe? That's another video. But like you could buy a casual cloak, sure. But you can't really get magic resist from anything else as a support. You know, it's no longer on Bracer, and unless you have a talent for it, we're probably not buying PKB. So if the enemy team has a lot of magic damage, Glimmer Cape becomes a really good item. And so I would say this passive stat is like really something to consider. But having said that, usually we're here for the active. Like, what does the active give us that makes it more important than, say, a 4-staff or like Aether Lens? It's usually like, you know, the big reason we're buying an item. So the Glimmer Cape active, you pick a target, they have a fade delay, and then they become invisible and they get magic resistance. Now, you only get the magic resistance when you're actually invisible. So during the fade delay, they don't have the magic resistance. And if, let's say you glimmer yourself, and then you attack and break your invis, in that time you're not invisible, you also don't have the magic resistance. But for this 5-second duration, you will attempt to fade into invisibility again, so long as you're not like still auto-attacking. And then once you're invisible, you can get the magic resistance again. But yeah, I'm going to tell you, this might surprise a lot of you. We want to consider the magic resistance boost first when thinking about Glimmer Cape. I think that's funny for a lot of people because many people think it's like, it's the invisibility item for supports. And it's true, that's very useful. But we don't buy it just because we need invis. If we, you know, what are we using the invis for? We're using it to kite, to be a little more survivable, to just have more utility, but there are other items that could do that. If we're trying to survive right clicks, we get a 4-staff, we could get a Ghost Scepter, even a Blink Dagger to stand further back and then initiate in. If we wanted survivability, you know, again, we could buy like a pipe instead, maybe even a hood, like just a casual hood. That'd be kind of weird as a support. You could just straight up buy more strength. Again, a little nerf now that the bracer's lower. But there are other options for kiting and general survivability than just going invis. And so if you're not really making use of the magic resistance, then it's weird to get this item just for the invis. Now, there might be some games where that's kind of okay, but like generally speaking, there needs to be some kind of magic damage in the game to make me think I'm going to buy this item. Otherwise, I'm just not thinking about it. And it is quite rare to have a game where the enemy team is pure physical damage. Sorry, not to confuse it. They are all physical damage, not like pure and physical. I guess technically that falls under it too, but that's pretty uncommon. There's usually at least one hero that deals magic damage to some degree, but sometimes they don't deal a lot. Sometimes you have several heroes. So like, in fact, spoiler alert. But let's take a look at some different heroes. You know, I was about to say Underlord. Okay, let's say Dragon Knight. he does do some magic damage between like breathe fire, the slight damage from the stun. I believe. Actually, I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure the poison damage and stuff is classified as magic damage, but now I actually have to double check later. But you know, he does magic damage, but he's not really a magic damage dealer, is he? You know, compared to say, you know, Shadow Fiend, Puck, Quap, like these people deal magic damage and they deal a lot of it. So Dragonite, even though he has magic damage, like, you know, it's not really enough to justify a Glimmer Cape. So it's only when you have, there needs to be at least one hero that is outputting a ton of magic damage, or more likely 2 or more heroes that are putting out a moderate amount of damage, but the fact that there's like multiple heroes doing it, it now becomes significant. So back to Glimmer Cape, you know, spoiler alert, we already saw it a little bit, but let's first think about Necrophos. He's the only one I need you to remember. So in the last video, you saw like 5 heroes, I think, that it's like if they're in the game, you kind of need a Force Staff first item, most likely. Necrophos is the only one. If you see a Necrophos in the game on the enemy team, you probably have to buy Glimmer Cape first. Unless Necrophos is having an awful lane, as long as he's doing moderate to good, you need to get one. And in fact, even if he's like doing poorly, you might still want to get one to make sure he does not recover from getting a good kill. So let's take a look at the hero. Why is it such a big deal for Necrophos? Necrophos is quite unique in that his Reaper Scythe does damage based on missing HP. What this means is that, say this level 1 axe. Actually, that's enough. Oops. Such a long cast. We only did about 200 damage to this guy, even less than that. A level 18 Necrophos, level 3 ultimate, did like 180 damage or something to this axe. Now let's take this guy. We did about 1,000 damage. Because it's all based on the missing HP. Now, because this skill is so telegraphed, it is so obvious when he's using it, because there's a delay, there's an animation, which is quite obnoxiously huge. The sound is really cool, but it's very noticeable when this is happening. And because it stuns for 1.5 seconds before actually dealing damage, you have a lot of time to react and Glimmer Cape the target. You know, even Death Pulse has like this slow traveling, projectile before it actually does damage. And if someone's running away, there's a time before it hits. So Necrophos as a damage dealer is just, like, it's very easy to glimmer in time. Whereas take some other magic damage heroes like Lina, Leshrac, it's hard to predict when they're about to, you know, ult or throw out a Q and to preemptively cast your Glimmer. You do have to do that sometimes, but like it helps that Necrophos' spells are so slow and makes it so easy to use the Glimmer Cape. So again, we did 1,000 damage to this axe before. Let's do the same thing. And this time we're going to Glimmer him. We're going to put a sentry so we can see him. We only did about 500 health this time. So he was at about 1,400 and he dropped to 900. We can do it again just to... I was a little too slow there, but... I promise you, it's about 600 damage. Okay, so by glimmering this guy, we prevented about 600 damage in a single spell. Why is that such a big deal for Necrophos? Necrophos' whole thing is to become very difficult to kill in teamfights, and if someone dies under his ult, then he gets a ton of regen, which makes him very difficult to kill. It's also this crazy amount of damage, potentially, right? We just saw how it can be not a lot of damage or a ton, like over 1,000 damage in a single spell. Now, sometimes in a game, there will be someone who's like incredibly tanky, like 3,100 HP, not that unheard of in this game, and it can go even further. Oftentimes, you'll have a carry that uses an Abyssal, and then followed up by support Lina ult, and some other hero throwing out their spells. People are committing a ton, and despite all that, they can only get a hero to like half health. That's where Necrophos shines. He ults and finishes off the kill, gets a ton of regen. The fight is immediately 4v5 in his favor, and that's how he wants to proceed. And we're going to stop all of that by just glimmering his target. Whoever he does it, you have so much time. Like, listen to that. You do it about halfway through because there's a 0.6 second delay on the time, and this has 1.5 seconds before it actually goes. So you can do about half the duration, and you'll make it in time. See, we turn invis. So once you hear the noise, you see the animation going. Cast Glimmer Cape on your carry. Win the game. It's not going to be that easy, but I promise you, you can negate a lot of what this hero wants to do with a 2,000 gold item. This guy who has however many items he bought, 2,000 gold item. Ruin his day. Very important to have. And it also helps yourself, like, because he's going to be casting his Q and you're probably, you know, in the general vicinity, it's going to be nice not to be chunked down yourself. But yeah, he's the only hero where if he's on the enemy team, we, like, have to rush Glimmer Cape. Okay? Because there's no counterplay to Reaper Scythe besides that. You can buy... Are you really going to buy a Lincoln's on your position 5 first thing? Probably not. And there are ways to pop it anyways. Lotus Orb could be a reasonable first purchase. Pretty rare. He can still cast it. It's a little annoying, but he can still cast the ult if he needs to. And if he really wants to and can, he might wait for Lotus Orb to fade, and then he's going to cast it. Is there anything else we could do? We could cast a Pipe. Yeah, but Pipe is more of a core item usually. But yeah, we could get it. It would not do as much as a Glimmer Cape would, though. And it definitely wouldn't do as much as the offlaner having a Pipe and you having a Glimmer, having both the items in the game. What else could you buy? You could buy a mech. Yeah, but the mech is like a 250 heal. I hope. 275 heal. I couldn't remember. But you saw how much damage we reduced, right? We reduced it by like 600 plus damage with that Glimmer Cape. So Glimmer, way better than mech in that regard. And it provides us the passive magic resistance as well. And the fact is, it doesn't stop the guy from getting ulted and reduce like a ton of damage. It's just healing him a bit. And to be fair, he's going to take a little less damage because he's not missing as much health. But it's not going to be as good as the Glimmer Cape. That's kind of it, right? You 4-staff the guy, it doesn't matter. He's still going to get ulted. You can't, like, stun Necrophos or anything. Like, if he's casted his ult, there's, like, nothing you can do. And unless your carry already had BKB going, because your carry gets stunned, there's nothing they can do either. There's just not a lot you can do besides glimmering the target. But let's look at these other heroes I have on this list. So, like, Pugna and Skywrath, why aren't they at the top? They do a lot of magic damage. It's because there are alternatives. Pugna, if he's draining you, you could literally just walk away. Obviously, that's like an exaggeration because sometimes you're slowed and you're dead. It's not the best to just walk away, but you can. You could 4-staff yourself away. You could, yeah, you can Glimmer yourself. You could Pipe, all that. You could stun Pugna so it cancels his drain. You could Yules yourself. Your carry, what can they do? They can Manta. They can BKB. They can 4-staff out. They can attack Pugna, man up. They have options. Skywrath, what can you do? You can 4-staff someone out when they get ulted. You can stand under the ult as well to split the damage. Whoever is the target, so like say it's a carry who got rooted into the ult, rooted silenced into the ult. They can Manta, they can BKB, they can I don't know. They just have options, is what I'm saying. They can Yules. There we go. That was the third option I was trying to think of. I don't know if I repeated that, but the point is you have different options. And so although Glimmer is great, like you see someone getting like decrepified, you see the Nether Blast go down, and then he starts draining them, you Glimmer, like, right? Very obvious. Like there's the target, you Glimmer them. You know, Skywrath. You see that root ult combo go down, and all of these falling in, you Glimmer the guy. It does reduce the damage a lot. It is a great response to these heroes. But you have the option to do something else. And you just don't really have that option against a Necrophos. Yeah. Now, to be honest, I don't really think about all these. I know I have them in this list and I'm talking about them, but I could remove them just as easily and it wouldn't bother me. Because really, my thought process is Necrophos on the enemy team? I need a Glimmer Cape. If it's not, I could still think about it. Is there a lot of magic damage on the enemy team? it doesn't matter who it is to me. It doesn't matter if it's Pugna and Lena. It could be Crystal Maiden. It could be a Bat Rider, and he's a third decent, and like an OD. You know, 3 sources of magic damage. That's kind of enough for me to say, okay, I'm gonna get a Glimmer Cape. You know, it doesn't have to be these specific heroes up here, but I didn't want to. The reason it's not more filled out is because I didn't want to list every single like magic damage dealing hero. But judge for yourself. Like if there's 2 or 3 heroes in this game that deal a lot of magic damage, kind of want to get a Glimmer Cape. Now, the reason I pointed out these heroes, so like Lena is very single target based usually. Even though 2 of her spells are AoE, she's often focused on one person. And if you space yourself out properly, oftentimes it will only be on a single person. For example, she Yules your core, and she's going to do the stun, Q, ult combo, and then auto attack. The second they land from Yules, you hit them with the Glimmer Cape, and hope that by the time she finishes casting her like WQ ult combo, by the time the ultimate is cast, they're faded, and you can at least reduce some of that damage. She needs to have detection ready, all of that jazz. Leshrac just outputs so much damage that it's good to have a Glimmer Cape to, you know, for your core, drop it on them, let them fight. Even though they're going to auto attack potentially and break it, there will be a fade. Like they will turn invis again and get magic resistance again. And if they are running away, then it's just like it's good in general. Storm Spirit, he dives you, you Glimmer Cape yourself. You'll reduce the damage from Zip if it was going to go over you. You force him to carry detection, and if not, you know, you can get away. Tinker, heat-seeking missiles. This is really helpful. You Glimmer yourself, you disappear, and then the missiles won't hit you. So that part is quite nice. And then even if they do hit you, you have passive magic resistance. Huskar, very easy to see when he is ulting someone because he has that whole travel duration. And then you just Glimmer Cape them. Even if he has dust, you'll reduce the magic damage he deals. And besides his right clicks, like the Burning Spears, the Inner Fire, that all deals magic damage. Elder Titan, Natural Order, removes all your base magic resistance. So you want to buy some for yourself, the passive 15%, but then to activate it on, you know, whoever yourself, the carry, to give them a boost in magic resistance as well against an Elder Titan. But again, honestly, I could throw all of these out. It doesn't matter the specific heroes. I don't want you to think about like, oh, Pugna, Skywrath. Well, those 2 are, we'll put them back. Pugna and Skywrath are quite notable examples of like, okay, it would be pretty good to get a, am I blind? Yeah. They are pretty good examples when they're cores, usually, of like when to get it. But for all the other magic dealers, like just judge for yourself. Like, is this a lot of magic damage? Let me get a Glimmer Cape. And it doesn't matter, like, Jakiro, Viper, whatever. Now let's talk about when you wouldn't get a Glimmer Cape. Oh, the last other thing. So we can use the utility. I say the last other thing. I'm sure there will be more. The utility of going invis is quite helpful. And I don't want to understate that. So I'm now going to overstate it here. If you watched the previous, more general itemization video as part of the Position 5 guide, I talked about identifying what I need in the game. And if there's an invis hero in the enemy team, I know I need to have 1 slot dedicated to dust and another slot dedicated to wards and sentries. So that if I dust and they dispel, or I dust and I miss, I can immediately drop a sentry. 2 of my slots, as the Position 5, are dedicated to detection if there's a single invis hero on the enemy team. And it's not just me. The Position 4 is also going to carry dust, and hopefully the mid or the offlaner, either one of them or both of them, will also be carrying detection. So somewhere between 4 to 5 slots on my team is dedicated to dust and possibly sentries. We need to. We just have to. We need to be able to see an invis hero to get the kill. But dust and stats don't really... Or, I'm sorry, dust and sentries don't give you stats. They don't give you damage. They don't give you, like, anything. But you still need to carry them. So, if your team has no invis heroes, that can make it very worthwhile to buy a Glimmer Cape because you are forcing the enemy team to all buy detection and or sentries. They should have been buying some anyways. And if not, they're just going to miss some kills because you're going to get away because you're invis. And even if they do start carrying detection to dust and kill you, even if they have it every single time, you never get away, it's still okay. You're forcing them to buy detection to manage their inventory, and they can't really replace it with another item. The cores will eventually, like the mid laner and the off laner, eventually they're probably going to reach a point where they're like, okay, I want a BKB instead of a dust. Very reasonable. But what that means is that if the mid laner dives you and you use a Glimmer Cape and they no longer have slots for detection, you're going to survive for at least 5 seconds. Hopefully you even get away. But if you pop out after 5 seconds and then they come kill you, you still bought yourself 5 seconds where that mid laner had to go do something else, and maybe you can get the rest of your spells out, do something, but there's just a lot of like added utility there. So I guess we'll actually start here. If your team has too much invis, that is bad. So I just talked about wanting at least one hero to be invis. I would say in general, having 2 heroes that have invis on your team is acceptable. I like having at least 1, up to 2. 3 or more feels really bad. Everyone is countered by dust. You know, if you had a Riki and a Mirana, their thing is being invis. And if the enemy team already has to carry dust for Riki, then they're just like, oh, cool. It's also useful against Mirana. How nifty. I was already carrying it, and now it's even better. You know, you don't want to give that to them. Don't let them, like, get that free benefit. And so if you have, like, 2 of these heroes on your team already, and I know there's even a couple extras. So, like, Wind Ranger gets it from a talent. You know, some people buy Shadow Blade, like Shadow Fiend and Slark. Anytime there is already someone with invis, maybe even 2, Glimmer Cape loses value. Now, the enemy team has a ton of magic resistance, or I'm sorry, a ton of magic damage. You might still need the Glimmer for the magic resistance, and it's just not going to feel as good because other people already have invis, and that part of Glimmer Cape is going to be counteracted, but you like still needed it for the magic resistance. Now, potentially you might choose to get a pipe then in that case instead of a Glimmer, but you typically don't want 2 pipes on a team, and one person does not want to buy a pipe and a Glimmer. So usually you want your like offlaner to buy the pipe, and then you buy a Glimmer. If your offlaner's not going to get a pipe, and you have the choice between Glimmer and pipe, I was debating whether this should be like a video of both of them. I am going to make this just Glimmer, but I'm probably just going to repeat this in the pipe video as well. Sometimes, like let's take Leshrac was an example I had. Zeus, we're going to get to him in a little bit. But they just put out so much AoE magic damage, where a Glimmer, it only helps yourself from the passive magic resistance, and then whoever you use the active on. You protect 2 people at most. Whereas the pipe can protect all 5. So depending on who's in the game, think of Glimmer Cape as a more single target magic resistance item, and the pipe as the team. And so if the enemy team has single target magic damage, like Lina was our example, or, you know, Necrophos, Skywrath, Pugna, they can do some AoE as well, but like they do a lot single target. Then it's like, yeah, a Glimmer is a pretty good option. But if they're more like Leshrac, Zeus, maybe you'll want to buy a pipe as a position 5. But that'll be for the pipe video. I'll go more into that then. What was I saying? Oh, yeah. But so if your team has multiple invis heroes, then it's like, okay, maybe I will get a pipe instead of a Glimmer because I need magic resistance, and I'm not going to get much value out of the invis portion because they're already carrying, like, heck, the guy already bought a gem. So it's like, I'm not going to get anything out of that. Let me just go get a pipe. Let's talk about the enemy team now. Axe and Legion, they have taunts, and they are mainly physical damage. So he actually has a pure spin, and he's going to get a blade mail that reflects probably the physical damage of someone auto-attacking him. Legion, like all physical damage. Blade mail, her, what's it called? The E. Moment of Courage. She's just a physical damage hero. So the magic resistance from Glimmer Cape does nothing. And because whoever gets taunted is required to attack, they're going to break the invis themselves. And that loses a lot of value. So it's like, I'm not getting magic resistance. I'm not getting invis. Not so good against these 2 heroes, is it? Slardar and Bounty Hunter, they're going to reveal you. If they ult you before you go invis, you're not you're not invis. You'll still get the magic resist. I'll point that out. There's a difference between going invis and being seen versus not being invisible at all. And Slardar and Bounty Hunter, they don't prevent you from going invisible, but they can see you. So these guys prevent you from going invisible because they taunt you and you break your own invisibility. They just reveal you. Now, Bloodseeker as well, Thirst can reveal you if you fall below a certain threshold of health. So Glimmer Cape loses some value against Bloodseeker. Against Zeus, this might surprise some of you. He's probably the hero that deals the most damage in a game anytime he's in it. And it's all magic. So it's like, why isn't Glimmer good? It is good. It's just not as good as it usually is, which is really weird. Zeus actually just does so much AoE damage. Like Arc Lightning, his ultimate, Nimbus, which can target like multiple people. His W is single target, but again, it's so low cooldown, he can just like target multiple people. He just does so much magic damage that Glimmer on its own is kind of not enough. And you don't get the invis because like his W and his Nimbus and his ult all reveal you. So it's like, okay, we're not getting a lot of value out of the invisibility portion. And the magic resistance, like we're protecting ourselves a little bit and our one target, which might be ourselves, but it's like 1 to 2 people, but then not the rest of my team. And that's why a pipe is better against Zeus than a Glimmer Cape. And again, this is why you like if you want one of these items, you often want both. Except against like Necrophos, where like he technically is just like he demands the Glimmer Cape and not necessarily a pipe. But if you're in a game where there is a lot of magic damage, you want someone else to get the pipe so that the whole team is buffed up, and then you buff someone up even further with the Glimmer Cape. Lycan. Why Lycan? It's because he builds a Necrobook really fast before we even get the Glimmer Cape much of the time. And it's not just Lycan. Other heroes do it too, like Beastmaster. We're actually just... It's not fully over, but we're kind of past the Zoo meta where everyone was getting Necrobook really fast. And if they're getting it so fast that, you know, they either have Necrobook 3 before we have Glimmer Cape, or even if we have Glimmer Cape first, but then eventually they finish the Necrobook, it just doesn't feel so good, right? Like every major fight, they're going to be using Necrobook, and the Necro Warrior will provide True Sight. And so it's just like, we're never going to get magic resistance. We're never going to get the invis out of Glimmer Cape. And heroes that build Necrobook tend to be physical damage based. So the magic resistance doesn't help a lot either. So like Lycan, like straight physical damage, reveals you with his Necro Warrior. He just kills you. He just destroys you. And the Glimmer Cape does nothing. The Void. Chronosphere reveals invisible heroes. So this can still be good. So like, let's say you have a Faceless Void Skywrath combo on the enemy team. He likes a Chrono, and then he drops the ult. You're still going to want a Glimmer to reduce the damage from Skywrath. But again, we're losing a bit of value from the invisibility portion. Spirit Breaker. When he charges you and you go invis, he stays on target. And he will collide with you. And once he hits you, he will then dust. How is that different from other melee heroes or even ranged heroes? They don't necessarily know where you're going to go when you're invis, even if they're carrying detection. Let's say the Faceless Void is chasing you. You're a little further away. You use your Glimmer, and it looks like you can go left or right, or maybe even turn around, and he doesn't know. He has to take a guess that I'm gonna time walk to the right and use dust. But you actually like circled around that last option we talked about. You ran backwards, and he missed you with the dust. He didn't know where you went. So there's a chance that he might miss you. Now, of course, he could have guessed properly where he like dusts right away because he expects you to turn around, and you die. Like that happens. Like it is this hit or miss chance. Whereas Spirit Breaker, he always knows where you go because of charge. I'm gonna pop this in because I'm gonna forget to say this otherwise. A trick you can do with the Glimmer Cape is to trick people with the fade delay. So like, say you're walking down a path. Actually,
all right,
we'll just do it.
on.
Say you're walking down this path, and we're like pretending we're gonna go this way. So we could Glimmer, and this is the issue. Some people will like just continue walking the way, and someone will guess that this like, oh, this is where they seem to be walking when they Glimmered. I'll keep going. And the other option is like, okay, let me Glimmer and go to the right. But you want to like Glimmer, go this way, and then the second you go Invis, now you cut to the right. So the last thing they saw while you were fading was going this way, and then you cut this way. And if you're at a high enough level, you can also take that like to the next level, which is like pretend to cut around and then actually go back the normal way. And they'll think that you messed up and you start to turn around before you un-invis, and they'll run this way. And then you're actually going like the way you want it to go. This doesn't work at low level because they don't even notice, like, they may not notice you do that kind of trick, and then they just like keep going the same way. But yeah, I just wanted to throw that out real quick. Spectre and Disruptor. It's not strictly these two heroes, but if you're affected by Spectral Dagger and or Thunderstrike, you're invisible, but they can see you. It's kind of weird where, in fact, let's just show it. Oops. Let's show it real quick. This is probably worth doing. And if I'm wrong, I'll look silly, but I don't believe I'm wrong. Why did I do it for myself? This isn't going to make any sense. Okay, let's come over here. Who had the Glimmer? He had the Glimmer. We got to walk away from our sentry. Goes invis. Look, we can still see it, right? It's because of the way Spectral Dagger works. And even though he was technically invis, I couldn't target him or anything. I know where he's going. You know, and I know he's running this way. I know he's trying to juke this way. I can see him even though he's invisible. Disruptor's Q works the same way. So it's not like, it's not a hard counter, you know? Like, if you need a Glimmer Cape, you still need a Glimmer Cape against these heroes. But just know that it's like, the invis portion is not going to be as good as usual. Now, most roots also reveal you. So, like, Treant alt, Pugna's alt, that's not a root, but it does. Shadow Shaman Shackle. There's a couple others like that, where if, for example, Shadow Shaman, if he's shackling, say, your carry, and then you Glimmer, your carry is still going to be visible. It's just like how it works. He's revealed while shackled. And then if shackle gets broken, the hero will then like go invisible. But just know against people with roots like that, it's like you lose a little bit of value on your Glimmer Cape. That is kind of it. Now the last thing I want to show you is this is something I didn't even know until I started preparing for this video. That's actually one of the things I like about making these videos, is I do learn a little bit of stuff. When you Glimmer, so if we look at it, there's a cast range of 550. So I come cast on this troll here. Let's drop a sentry in front of us to kind of know how far I had to walk up. Oh, the other thing I'll say, I don't think I said it in this recording. Glimmer Cape is really good because it's a single target thing. It's really good when you have a hero like Troll. I shouldn't have moved him. It's going to change. It's really good against a hero like Troll because Troll is like your carry. I mean, that sounds silly. He is like a 1v5 kind of carry where you just need to play around Troll. And so it's like, okay, I want to Glimmer him. I want to boost him up. When you have a not so hard carry, kind of like maybe like Juggernaut, kind of, well, Ursa to a degree, but I would say like Juggernaut. It's kind of awkward. Juggernaut, Wraith King, Drow. A lot of these carries actually fall into this topic. But that is when Pipe is a little better because, like, we need the whole team alive versus Troll, where it's like we are all focused on Troll. But anyway, so we Glimmer, walk in, we walk into about here. And just to show it again, we're going to, like, walk in because it's a 550 cast range, right? So tell me, when I'm standing here, why can I cast it on Troll? I didn't know I could do that. Apparently, I don't know if this is a bug, But if you're outside of 800 cast range, you will walk up to 550 cast range and then cast it. But if you cast it within 800 cast range, you'll just do it. What? I had no idea that worked. So, what that means is you don't want to just single click on troll like this, otherwise you'll walk all the way up. And what you want to do instead is rapidly click on him, and then as soon as you're within the 800 range, you will cast it. And if you know where the 800 range is, you don't even have to do like the rapid casting. You can just walk up and then know like, okay, I'm going to do that. I'm not sure if this is a bug. I kind of hope it stays, even if it is, because I like this kind of like weird discrepancy skill cap thing, like Blink Dagger blinking you 1200, or if you cast too far, then it only does like 4/5. I like weird stuff like that, so I kind of hope this Glimmer thing stays. Another thing I didn't know, but I really should have noticed. I think I sort of knew this one. I'm going to give myself a little credit where there were times where it's like, I casted that a little too soon, but I didn't like piece it together. You don't even have to face him. You can cast it anywhere immediately. What is this? Crazy. And it kind of makes sense because Shadow Blade, Shadow Amulet, and Glimmer Cape, they don't stop you, right? So if you're moving and you Glimmer Cape, like you just keep going. It doesn't interrupt you. Whereas like Lotus Orb, your character stops and you have to issue another move command. And for most items, if you want to cast it on someone, you have to turn to face them. So like if I am looking this way, I do have this time where I have to turn around and cast it. Whereas Glimmer, whatever direction, pretty nifty. So that's actually abusing this 800 cast range thing. It doesn't look like a lot between here, but I promise you, like, isn't this way better than having to walk up to wherever it was, like here? You know? It can take you like 1 second to walk this distance. And if you think about his ult, 1.5 seconds, having to walk this extra 1 second is actually the difference, as opposed to being able to cast it from back here. So this is pretty nifty to know. Anything else to say? Oh, actually, there is a little bit. One other thing. So a couple heroes that like to channel, so like Crystal Maiden, Bane, and Witch Doctor. I'm sure there's a couple others. Let's do it with Crystal Maiden. You have a Glimmer Cape. You can ult, and then you can actually cast it while channeling. And it's kind of nice to make it a little bit more difficult to interrupt your ult. So you can also like do it beforehand. It actually also works while you're TPing. Pretty cool. So any hero can make use of that. But a couple heroes like Crystal Maiden, Witch Doctor, who else did I say? Bane. Like, because a big part of their team fight is ulting, they do like the extra survivability that Glimmer Cape gives them, so that they can't get burst down too quickly, or hopefully like they can't even be targeted at all if the enemy team didn't bring detection. So now that's it. 38 minutes. I said this was going to be a short one. We still ended up talking a long time, but I think that's okay. Yeah. Buy Glimmer Cape when there's a lot of magic damage, and buy Glimmer Cape when there's Necrophos on your team. Don't buy Glimmer Cape if there is no magic damage. Be hesitant to buy Glimmer Cape when you see like any of these heroes that will reveal you, or if your team already has Invis. I could have made the video in 1 minute just summarizing it like that, but we drew it out to 38. Have a great day, guys. Expect hopefully a support video out tomorrow, probably a gameplay one. Bye.